Assalamu Alaikum and welcome to episode 12 of the Muslim Gamers podcast. I am Faraj and I'm joined by Nael and Abdul. Assalamu Alaikum, guys.
Wa
Assalamualaikum.
alaikum salam.
As we dive into another week of gaming news, hot takes, and insightful conversations from a uniquely Muslim perspective. What does that mean? I don't know. Listen to find out. Uh, in this episode, we've got a lot to unpack. I'll briefly mention our topic. It's about like quality versus quantity with our games, especially when it comes to game length. Also, to what's been keeping us busy on our consoles and PCs lately. So grab a drink, settle in, and let's get into it. And while we get started with what we're playing, if there are no objections, is it okay if I start with saying what I've been playing?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Seems interesting.
No, it's just the Phoenix Wright trilogy, and I was trying to make a pun there with no objections because the main meme out of that game is the objection meme. So I've been playing through it on the Steam Deck, and it's because I think it was either the previous episode or the episode before where Laughing Man was talking about how the Steam Deck is a perfect visual novel device, and yeah, he's absolutely right. The one thing I'll say about Phoenix Wright though is it wants you to go through a specific um like tree of events, like when you're trying to pick dialogue choices and like where like you get to pick apart people's testimonies and where you have to like pick the right thing to object to or present the right piece of evidence. It's pretty linear in that fashion, so I actually had to bust out a guide just so I didn't want to go through the trial and error process of trying to figure okay, is it this or that,
Oh, get good,
and
bro.
then end up, what was that?
Get good, bro.
Well, because once I fail, like if you fail
You
like I
have
think
to
5 times, you have to start over
start over.
from the last save point. So I was like, I'm not ready to do that. So, um, yeah, it's just it's a lot more time consuming than I thought it would be, and it's a trilogy. It's a collection of the 3 games, and I actually just got through the first game in that trilogy and just started the second one. I'm kind of taking a break from it because I was playing it a little bit obsessively, so switched over to a little bit of OG Borderlands, the enhanced
Okay.
edition. Trying out some of the quality of life features because I love Borderlands when it first came out. Um, I think apart from the pre-sequel, I've loved the main Borderlands games, and
Did
I
you ever
haven't tried
play the?
You
the
like
Tiny
3?
Tina. I like 3. The gameplay of 3, the story, the villains are very cringy, which is what we're hoping they fix with 4. The story, I'm not usually paying that much attention to the story, but I love the gameplay loop. Like the gunplay feels a lot better. The fact that you can vault over ledges feels a lot is a much welcome addition to the game, and it's always fun to play that game in co-op
Did you
with
ever play
friends.
the Telltale's Borderlands game?
That is a part of my ever-growing backlog, so it's there. I think I claimed it as part of Amazon Prime a while ago,
Okay.
so that's another one I want to get
It's
through.
a fun one. It's
No,
different. It's
the
different, but it's
Phoenix,
fun.
yeah, the Phoenix Wright series is great. They're such a fun games to go through.
Oh yeah, it's it made me wonder if there's like an anime that's about courtroom drama or about lawyers, and I looked into it. There actually aren't that many. I think there's one anime about law
There's
school
like detective
students.
animes, but yeah, but not
Yeah, yeah,
courtroom stuff.
like Detective Conan and all
We
of
need
those.
anime suits. Make it happen.
Yeah, anime suits, or at least just a Phoenix Wright anime. Fun fact: there's a Phoenix Wright live action adaptation, and I think that goes through like the first 1 or 2 episodes of the game.
Does not sound like something I want to watch.
I
If it's
think it's rated at
Netflix, I
like 6 point
definitely
something.
don't.
No,
want...
this was pre Netflix. This was like 2007.
Oh, okay,
So
interesting.
yeah, I haven't checked it out yet. I'm not saying you should check it out, but just throwing that out there. And with throwing it out there, I'm gonna throw over my proverbial talking stick to. Let's see, who do I pick? I'm gonna pick Abdul because you haven't been to the podcast in a while. Welcome back,
Yeah,
by the way.
thanks.
We've missed you
It's
for
good to
quite
be
a long
back.
time.
I
Especially every time
missed you
Dragon
guys.
Age Inquisition is brought up, we're always like, "Why isn't Abdul here?"
There's
We
been
need someone that spice.
so many
To my
conversational
knowledge,
points that you put out, and then Laughing Man had brought up Dragon Age without you a couple times. He didn't fully get into the conversation because he was waiting for you. And we still have to make that
I
happen.
haven't seen his comments yet.
Yeah, and of course today, while we're getting ready to record, he had something come up, so he hasn't been able to make it to this
I was
recording.
about to
So
throw down. I was like, let's
right,
go.
yeah, no, I was gonna get my popcorn ready and everything just to sit back and just watch you guys throw it down, but it's okay. Maybe for the next episode or a later episode. But
Inshallah.
we're glad to have you back here, bro.
Yeah, no, it's
Alhamdulillah.
good to be back. It's been a busy couple of weeks. I've been traveling a lot. I have like no time for anything, but it's good to be back.
Somehow you still managed to be a part of a podcast,
Yeah.
be an actual owner of a Discord server for Muslim gamers, full-time job, husband and parent to 2 kids.
Yeah.
How do you do it, bro?
I don't. I don't. I'm not thriving.
Okay, so while you're not
No,
thriving,
but,
tell us about some of the games you're playing.
Yeah, so since I've been traveling a lot, my Steam Deck has gotten a lot of attention, and it's been pretty awesome.
Nice.
So I played a lot. I've been playing a couple of Steam Deck friendly games, things that have been on my backlog that I wanted to get cleared. The 3 games that I've been playing is Chained Echoes, Cassette Beasts, and Sea of Stars. All of them very uniquely different. I say Chained Echoes and Sea of Stars probably most similar to each other. And
I
Cassette
actually
Beasts
got those 2 mixed up usually because they're very Chrono Trigger likes, right? Kinda ish.
Yes and no. Yeah, so Sea of Stars is very beautiful. It's like very well made. And Chained Echoes is a little bit more like rough. Looks a little bit. It's like more. You can tell it's a little bit more like indie. But I haven't. So Sea of Stars is more. It's very like just go happy fun. And you know you're traveling the world. You're doing the things. You're like fighting evil, and it's like it's a very fantasy hero feel good game, and I actually enjoyed it, and it's very crisp. The combat can get tiresome a little bit. I felt I haven't
I'm
got
guessing it's turn-based, right?
It is turn-based. Yeah, it's turn-based combat, and it can get a little cumbersome. I haven't got the full hang of it yet. I'm not super far in, but it's fun. It's fun so far. Chained Echoes, similar vein. Again, turn-based combat. It's a slow start. The first when I started it, I'd say the first 2 to 3 hours, I was like, I don't know if I like it, but then it opens up, and it's like, dude, this game is awesome. There's so much going on. There's so many elements to the game. The story is like very rich, and the world is very it's a very interesting world to get immersed in. So I'm enjoying it a lot. I actually stopped playing Sea of Stars, and continue Chain of Echoes because I like Chain of Echoes a lot more. But it is a slow start. So if you're not getting it, if you start it off and you're like, I don't really know what's going on, it takes a little bit for the world to open up for you. Then you really like it. At least that was for me. Cassette Beasts, completely different game. It's basically a Pokemon clone would be the best way to put it, but it's not. It's really has a very unique twist where the concept is the same, where you're out in the world trying to capture beasts and level up with them. The level up system is a little bit different, where you as a character level up, and the beasts themselves have their own stars. They're called stars. So how the game works,
it's like a rating system rather than a leveling system.
Yeah, and you can rank up
okay.
your cassettes. So each monster can go up to 5 stars, and the 5 is the highest, and then it can either transform into a new beast, or if that's if it's at 5 and it's a top form, then it'll be there.
Okay.
What's unique about cassette beasts is instead of capturing the monster, you're recording the monster in a cassette, and then you yourself transformed into the monster. So you have like a cassette player, and when you play that cassette player, that monster's cassette tape, you transform into that monster. And it has a very unique concept of, so if you guys are familiar with TM and HMs and Pokemon, where you're giving abilities to your Pokemon, similar system here, but they're called stickers. So you can apply stickers to these cassettes, and they'll give them different abilities, and they're reusable. So you can remove stickers and apply stickers as much as you want. to your
Debuff,
different
debuff.
monsters. Yeah, and
For those
it's
that
actually
are not familiar with real stickers, you could do that with them as well. You can apply stickers and take them off too. I like that there's a little
well,
throwback to
yeah,
that.
for a certain amount, yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, the world is super interesting. It's the story is pretty interesting so far. It's pretty funky too.
Mm.
So I like it. I'm enjoying it. It's nice.
Nice. Yeah. I had that downloaded, but I'm trying to just focus on at least a game or two at a time, but rather than just jumping around like crazy.
No.
Yeah, that looks it's definitely very interesting. I've had all actually. I don't know if I had Chained Echoes on my radar, but Sea of Stars. I know a lot of people were talking about it last year, or
Yeah,
was it the year before?
it's
Yeah.
it's very well polished. I'd
Mhm.
say it's very crisp. When you play it, you're like, oh, the combat is very responsive.
Mm-hmm.
The world feels very unique. Yeah, it's good. One thing I forgot to mention about not Chained Echoes, the cassette beasts. So it kind of goes Dragon Ball Z a little bit, where you can fuse cassettes
Oh, cool.
and fuse monsters, and that's a huge part of the game. Is you have these companions that you travel with, and you can give them cassette beasts, and then you can fuse with that person, and then you become a more powerful beast. So there's, I think, 130 something beasts, but then each one can merge with another, so you can have like a times
Just
two,
exponential.
yeah, exponentially more variation of
Yeah.
ones, which is pretty interesting.
Cool. Yeah, I'll definitely. Man, yeah, they sound very interesting, and hopefully, as I'm chewing through my backlog, one game at a time, I'm gonna get there, inshallah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So since you're talking about Pokemon clones, why don't we talk about an actual Pokemon game? Since Nael, that's what you've listed as one of the games you've been playing.
Yeah. I still playing it a little bit because like I mentioned last time, holidays and traveling and stuff, so didn't really have time for any to bite into anything serious. So I just started playing Pokemon Violet a little bit on the side. Um,
Yeah, that's
it's
the
been
first
fun.
Pokemon game I never finished.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
that's
it just playing it makes me miss the OG ones more.
it was so clunky. It ran
Yeah.
so terribly.
Yeah,
I just
it's not the most polished game, I would say. But I think what they tried to do with making the 3D environments and things like that, like it's an interesting step because a lot of people in the fan base definitely have been asking for something of that nature. So it's nice to see that they tried. So hopefully with the Switch 2, maybe we'll get a better something with it. That's what I'm hoping for. But I think they should just go back to 2D.
The 3D environments were tried. I mean, it wasn't like fully 3D. I guess you could
This
still
yeah, I
this
kind of
mean the
play on
yeah.
2D
DS even
planes.
had 3D models. Like
They had 3D
Right.
it's
models, but
not like
Yeah.
this was like 3D RPG environment
yeah, and
kind
it
of
was
thing.
it was so terrible. Like it
Yeah.
was like I'm
It
playing a
just
PlayStation 1 game.
it just felt,
Honestly, it was
and like when you're moving around, it just doesn't feel efficient. Like I'm just walking to walk. Like there's nothing to appreciate, and like there's no point of like,
yeah, and it's
it's
like
yeah. Uh,
yeah.
so it just kind of takes away from the experience in a lot of ways. But like I'm still going through it just because, um, I'll keep going till I'm bored with it at this point because I
So
paid
you're
for
not
it.
bored with
So
it yet. So that's good to hear.
I'm not like fully bored with it yet,
Not
but
fully.
it's getting there. It's
It's
getting there.
good.
But that's my problem with all Pokemon games. At some point, I get
Okay.
tired of them.
Okay.
Even except like some of the older ones, like I played till the end, you know. But a lot of the time with Pokemon games, at some point, it just feels a little bit repetitive because I don't nerd out on like, oh, I gotta min max my Pokemon,
Right.
build out the ultimate team. I don't
Mhm.
really. I'm a casual Pokemon fan. I
I'm with you
enjoy
there.
it. Check out the new Pokemon. All right, it's fun. I have my fun. This game I didn't buy outright because I had the
It was a Switch Online voucher, right? Where you
the
get
voucher exactly.
yeah.
So I had to use my second voucher, and at the time, there was no other game that was like maybe I'll get it, because I either had it or like I wasn't as interested in playing it, so I just did it for this.
Dude, you should
So
hit me up. I would give you better recommendations for your money than Pokemon.
Yeah, I'm thinking of one right now. Luigi's Mansion 3, maybe.
well,
Paper Mario.
I was in the mood to play at the time. Paper Mario wasn't on there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. You wanted to play something Pokemon, basically.
And I wanted to play something Pokemon, so it was either between that or Arceus, and and someone.
Oh, dude, you should have done Arceus. What are you?
Well, my friend is going to let me borrow Arceus, so I was like,
okay,
I'll just get this.
Quick question about Arceus. So I'm probably even more of a casual Pokemon player than Nael is. And from what I heard about Arceus, it's more about the way you progress is by capturing more of the same Pokemon. That sounds kind of boring to me. Is that kind of what the gameplay loop is like?
It's not. It's
yes and no.
Don't think of it as like the old school,
the traditional Pokemon.
Yeah, it's not.
Pokemon. It's not that game at all.
It's kind of actually the concept of Arceus. I actually really enjoyed the game. Like the gameplay itself could use a lot of work, but the concept where so in regular Pokemon game, everyone's kind of your Pokemon aren't a threat to you. You're just there to enjoy life and capture as many Pokemon. In Arceus, the Pokemon are more wild. Like it's a world before humanity domesticated Pokemon.
Yeah.
Got it.
The Pokemon are an actual threat that you have to kind of watch out for.
And
it's an unknown basically. So you're capturing Pokemon to kind of research what they are and what how can we learn more about them and beat them and survive basically. It's interesting. So yes, you're capturing more of the same Pokemon, but you're not doing it in the traditional sense of you have to battle each one.
Yeah, from what
it
does, it's not as grindy.
It's the first Pokemon game where it's open world. The Pokemon are there. You just toss a ball. Yeah. And you go and you toss a ball and you go. You toss a ball.
Yeah,
so you're not grinding. You're not finding them. You're not fighting them.
Okay, you don't have to fight them to lower their HP and then try to catch them.
Yeah. For tougher ones, you can go and fight them for sure.
Okay,
but
it's
when
different.
Yeah.
It's funny. The more you guys talk about this, the more I just want to play Pal World.
Don't let Game Freak hear you say that.
Yeah.
They actually just launched a publishing label, Pal World. From what I heard.
A publishing label, for
game publishing. Yeah, they're gonna start publishing games.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
they must have made a lot of bank from Pal World.
Yeah, they're probably what do we do with all this cash? All right, let's do
after we play Nintendo,
which is actually pretty cool. They're giving other games a chance to be in the spotlight too.
Definitely, yeah. They seem pretty wholesome from the way they look like they're running things, and I think they also through an update also changed one of the main reasons of the lawsuit between them and Nintendo,
was
the where
ball.
You no longer throw a ball to capture the monsters or your pals. But I haven't had a chance to try it out yet. I have it installed, but every time I think about playing it, it's like I'm not in front of a computer.
Yeah. Next time you want to hop on, let's go, because you can play co-op. By the way.
Yeah, but I think we're sharing the same Steam copy, so only one of us can hop on at a time. Yeah, but I like playing these types of crafting games.
Well, I have it on Game Pass as well.
Oh, okay. We should definitely give it a try. But you know what? I just realized I'm kind of hijacking Niall's time of him talking about the games he's playing. So I'm sorry, you weren't done. Actually,
the other one's not that great. I'm just
kidding. Well, the other game, Abdul left before he could play with us. We were hanging out yesterday.
Thanks for the invite, guys.
We pulled out. We pulled out. Well, it's not FIFA anymore. It's EA FC.
Right. FC, yeah.
Right. So just played a few rounds of that with friends, and it was fun. I haven't played FIFA in a long time. I still suck at it, but it was just fun to play with friends, and it was just as easy to just jump into a game and pick up.
Just pass the ball around, try to score.
Score. Yeah.
It's
still the perfect couch co-op game,
Is it still riddled with like loot boxes, or is how's the monetization on that? Is it pretty trash? Or did you not?
Bro,
You just
we
went
just
to
played
quick
quick
play?
match. We just played quick
Okay.
matches. We played like 3 or 4 of them, and that was it. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's still a big part of it.
because it's
From what I
EA.
last heard,
So
yeah,
I mean,
it's a huge cash cow for them. Like
Yeah.
they're
Yeah,
milking
huge.
so much money out of
Huge.
it. Yeah.
yeah. Just
So-
because FIFA isn't on
Gotta
the
get the
label doesn't mean
gold
they
star,
still gotta make that money.
Messi.
Yeah. So Niall, since you're talking about games making money, one of the ways games kind of help pad their bottom line, I guess, is also by closing down studios.
That's true.
Transitioning into our new segment here, that was one of the stories that you had highlighted in our notes here. So why don't you get into
I think it was actually this morning's news. Ubisoft just closed their
the London studio.
London, whatever, I forgot what they call it, but it's basically their London studio.
Yeah, it was actually started as an entirely different studio. And I think
it was a studio that they bought and absorbed, and they closed that down, and they laid off people throughout Europe, additional team members throughout Europe.
Yeah.
So they're just still trying to reconfigure things, and I don't know what they're doing at this point. I don't think Ubisoft does either.
Yeah, I'm hoping they figure something out. I mean, this is kind of unfortunately normal to see when when a company is looking for investors, where they try to lower what they show as their expenses, especially before the end of the fiscal year, which we're not there yet right now. So I guess it makes sense for what they're doing. It sucks that people had to lose jobs over that. But I also was looking at what games specifically came out of the UK, because since I like to punish myself, I do play a lot of Ubisoft games, and there's not a single game I can think of that came with Ubisoft UK. Usually it's like any game that I play, it's like Ubisoft Montreal, Ubisoft Paris, or Ubisoft. I think there was one that was Ubisoft Singapore. So the UK studio is actually more of a support studio from what I saw.
So it's a lot of people, I think, who do like post-production work, cleaning up things, that's probably where a lot of the audio engineers and things like that, the colorists, your post-production teams or pre-production teams are going to be doing work out of those types of studios. So I think we'll be seeing a lower polish out of Ubisoft games potentially.
As if we
How
couldn't get lower
go?
polished. Exactly.
They're playing the game with the.
Yeah. Surprisingly, one good game from last year from Ubisoft was Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown.
Yeah, and they axed the entire team.
Well, they didn't axe them. They just them around.
They moved them around. Well, I think some people got laid off. Other people got.
I think some of them did.
Yeah. They shuffled them. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, that was a pretty good game.
Yeah.
I think they did it just before people would get their bonuses out of that, right? Or is that something else? That was a different story.
Sure.
That wasn't Ubisoft.
But it would make sense to do it just to deny them their bonuses.
But I don't want to speak out of without knowledge, because I think that was a different scenario where that happened, where a team was laid off just before a game had popped off and bonuses weren't distributed.
Just Tencent should just buy them out, like just dragging.
Tencent is what owner? What percentage?
They're like 40-something% owner.
He's at 40 right now. I thought it was 10.
I don't think 10? It's that high.
I thought it was pretty high. No?
Yeah, I thought it was 10. They have their hand in every cookie jar.
I think they're trying to make themselves in a place to be bought out fully. But at the same time, I think part of the family wants to still keep full control. So like I was saying earlier, like I don't know if Ubisoft even knows what it wants.
So as of October 2024, Tencent owns 9.2% of Ubisoft.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll see how much more they can buy. I know there's still all that drama with Tencent trying to figure out the whole thing of being labeled a Chinese military organization. So we'll see.
A lot of that going around. Yeah,
Mhm.
we got TikTok and not TikTok and
Tencent.
Tencent. Then we got the new
The
AI
new,
thing.
the new AI DeepSeek.
Oh yeah, that was just
Yeah.
breaking news from today, right? I haven't even had a chance
Yeah,
to
today, yesterday.
look into the
Yeah.
whole DeepSeek thing. But you know what? Let's talk about Abdul. Why don't you go next? Because you have a couple of pretty juicy news stories here. Or juicy, I
Yeah.
don't know if it's juicy good,
So
but
continuing
gives us
my
something to talk
hate,
about.
continuing my hate of Dragon Age. EA just had their investor call where they were like, "Oh, Dragon Age underperformed, shockingly." And also surprisingly, I was actually surprised that FC 25 also underperformed, which I was surprised to hear. Yeah, Dragon Age. It's funny. They said in their statements that it only engaged 1.5 million players. It's a very key word to use there, meaning
Interesting.
that their count. Yeah, so that's not 1.5 million units sold. It's 1.5 million people that actually played the game, and whether it was
actively.
through like the trial version or through Game Pass, or
I know they
like,
have
it was
EA access as
they
well.
have
So
like
maybe
EA Play trials, right? So
Mhm.
they're counting that as, and that's how bad it was that they had to count those numbers to
They
get
have to
to
bring
like
those
that.
numbers in.
Yeah, that is horrible, and honestly, well deserved for the trash game that is Veilguard.
Hold the trash talk about Veilguard itself until we get Laughing Man on the episode.
I'm going. He can come defend it when he's here. Otherwise, it's out of full force. But yeah, I was surprised to see FC25 underperform. That's usually like a moneymaker.
Yeah,
And this is the first year that you're doing it without FIFA, right?
Second year.
Second year.
Last year was the first FC game.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
But it could be marketing. It could be economy is down. People already have 24, so they're not interested in buying 25.
Exactly, I mean, yeah, it's getting rough out here.
Yeah.
Eggs are like $10.
Bro.
Yeah, people are struggling to buy eggs. I think video games should. I'm not saying they are, but they should be lower on the priority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you guys will see less things on my Steam Deck. Steam
we still have the backlog. It's okay. We'll be good for a while.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
Patted us a bit on there.
Yeah, but there's still so many. This is where I'm a huge proponent of just giving indie games a chance, because there's a lot of quality in there. There are a lot of duds, obviously. It's either one person or a small team. They're just making a game to see if they could try to make some money out of it. But there are a lot of gems in the indie gaming sphere. So I think people should definitely try it out. And just had an idea for a future topic. Maybe we could talk about some, under
budget,
not under budget, but like not as well known indie games. Underground, sure, yeah. And looks like you have another story as well. This one I don't know too much about, Abdul. So
really?
Why don't you educate us about it?
Sure.
Actually, I may have heard one thing about it, but go ahead.
So Hoyoverse, the creators of Genshin Impact and a couple other something rail,
Honkai Star Rail.
Honkai Star Rail.
Waifu games, right? That's what I hear they are.
They are waifu games. They're gacha games at the end of it. They're actually pretty. I mean, as far as gacha games go, they're pretty polished. I played quite a bit of Genshin Impact actually when it first came out. Really enjoyed it. Honestly, combat is sweet. World was amazing. The gacha system sucks, like absolutely. But the world and the game, it's a really polished game, and that's the Hoyoverse actually puts out. I played the Star Rail as well, and I really liked it as well. And I was like, this is super awesome. But the gacha systems are absolutely terrible.
So this whole time, I thought people were saying gotcha games, like GOTCHA. No. But it turns out to spell gotcha, like gotcha, as in like, oh, gotcha, we got you to pay.
Yeah. We got you to pay. Yeah, so they actually got fined by the FTC, surprisingly, for a whopping $20 million, which to put it into context, like Genshin Impact made like I think some crazy $1 billion in the first week.
Little drop in the bucket.
So yeah, that's like it's like giving them $1 to Hoyoverse. But they did get fined, which is something better than nothing. The one thing that they did do is they FTC also required them to have some sort of gating around making it harder for children to buy boxes. Like there has to be some sort of age gating that you have to do for kids to be able to buy loot boxes. It's like, okay, that's something. It's nothing great, unfortunately, but it's something. And I was like, okay, that's something to celebrate, I guess.
This brings an interesting question. How do these games do in Europe? Because I thought the EU has super strict laws on loot boxes in games, especially to protect kids from.
They do have more stricter rules, but not as strict. So the main thing is you have to reveal your pull rates to loot boxes, and that's something that every game's kind of done. And Hoyoverse too, it's not like exactly like what's the pull chance of this particular character. Like you're gonna get 1 out of 100 chance to get this.
I think all games that have chance pretty much just do it
now have to do it. Yeah,
just because they don't want to deal with developing for multiple markets, they just all share.
Yeah, but there's not a ban on loot boxes yet. There was a push a while back. I don't know if it succeeded.
I don't know. It didn't. There was a push like last year before, but yeah.
I can't think of any other mainstream games that have loot boxes. I know Overwatch was notorious for it, but I don't think Overwatch 2 has loot boxes. I think it just has purchasable cosmetics, right?
COD has loot boxes.
Loot boxes? I know COD Mobile does, but I thought COD just has what are they called? Like you can just purchase loot boxes.
Yeah, those are loot boxes. Those are loot boxes at the end of the day.
The UI for COD multiplayer is just like so
Apex Legends.
Apex Legends.
Pretty much all of our
most of these
League of Legends,
top games
Dota
right now, they all have loot boxes.
Yeah, all the time.
I thought they mainly focused generating the revenue through like the battle passes and the cosmetics. Because I know
that's
Fortnite.
an additional thing.
Yeah.
The loot boxes didn't go away. Yeah. They just added battle passes on top of it.
Did the loot boxes go away from Fortnite? Because I don't remember seeing them. Because I know it started.
I have not played Fortnite in a very long.
I haven't opened Fortnite in about 2 years, so I'm not sure.
It's been about maybe a year for me since I last played.
You didn't want to sign in for the Mariah Carey special?
There was a Mariah Carey special, man. Was it right in time for
Christmas?
For Christmas.
Yeah, they had the whole like outfit and everything for her. Apparently.
No, it's okay. I heard her voice enough through the wind as fall was approaching. And then you walk into that cursed department store where it's just playing right as soon as you walk in. So no, I had enough of that now. Yeah, but it's been a while. Usually when I play, it's with friends and. We do the what's that called? The no build mode. Yeah, the one without the kids in it. So that's fun.
Yeah, I can't do build mode. It's insane.
Yeah. It's but yeah, going back to these loot boxes, it's it does bring up the bring up a topic of, especially when it's like with those like what are they called, the NFT games and like games that have blockchain built into them. Where they have, I think some of them have loot boxes built into where you can put money into getting stuff that you can also trade to get an equivalent of real money or like some sort of cryptocurrency. So that brings about the question of gambling in there too, and whether or not it's it's halal for us to even be playing these types of games,
or at least participating in that side of the game.
Right.
That part is probably for sure.
Yeah,
it looks like Fortnite. They took out loot boxes back a few years ago, 2019 or so.
Yeah, because their loot box was actually a piñata, like a llama that you had to break open.
I remember that.
That was what was unique about it, and I haven't seen that in that game for a long time.
Yeah, 2019. So it's been a long time.
Yeah. My news story in comparison is very light, I guess, because it's We heard about the delays with Assassin's Creed Shadows, and there was some controversy about the character choice that they chose as the protagonist, and then there were some historical inaccuracies in there that were reported to. Um, but I think it's a good. Whenever a game is delayed, usually people get upset. I think it's okay for a game to be delayed, just so it could spend some more time in the oven, get cooked before
Yeah.
it comes out. And looks like people that got a chance to play it early have a lot of good things to say. There was one article where I just saw the headline where they're like, "Oh, it's a lot more disappointing than I thought it would be." But there's one YouTube channel that uh, it got fame a few years ago because of a plagiarism incident with with an IGN reviewer, where this guy is called Boomstick Gaming. He reviewed Dead Cells, and IGN's reviewer kind of basically used his review and used words from there. And once he Boomstick Gaming pointed out the plagiarism, the IGN editor or reviewer ended up getting fired, and that was a whole thing. This was a few years ago. Um, but ever since then, I've been following Boomstick Gaming, and he has some good things to say while also highlighting anything to criticize about a game, and I think it's done in a reasonable way. So he said that he got a chance to play Assassin's Creed Shadows, and said that the combat has a surprising amount of depth, especially watching some of the gameplay. It doesn't really look like Assassin's Creed. It looks a lot closer to Ghost of Tsushima, or even some parts of it with Sekiro, because there's like a stance or a posture that you have to break with your enemies. It didn't show anything about it being the case with your character, but between the two characters you play, the female ninja type character whose name I can't remember, and Yasuke, which is like your big tank like character, there's definitely a difference in play style where as Yasuke you have more of a crowd control attacks with a lot of blocking and parrying, whereas with the female character you have more dodging, and you play, the way he put it is like you're more like Batman when you're playing like her, because you got to use more subterfuge and sneak attacks, and throw smoke bombs, a lot of dodging. So looks pretty interesting. I don't think I'm going to get it at launch, because the last few Assassin's Creed games I played just had so much padding in them to where getting through the game, like
So much bloat.
it's a lot of bloat. Like with Assassin's Creed Origins, I love the world. Like one thing Assassin's Creed gets right is the world
building, for sure.
The world building is absolutely beautiful. So getting to see ancient Egypt in Assassin's Creed Origins,
but the bloat, where find a million feathers
exactly
can really
but
bog down the game.
Yeah, by the time I beat Assassin's Creed Origins, I still had a bunch of the side missions and the DLC missions as well.
Yeah,
but I was like, I'm done with this. I'm exhausted.
The only Assassin's Creed I played to 100% was 3.
3, yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. 3's ending I actually hated, just because it was
agreed.
To risk spoiling it for people. You're chasing a guy, and then it ends in a cutscene of you just sitting down with him at a table and just stabbing him and walking away. And I'm like, what?
Yeah,
that was that's a lack of payoff there.
We deserved a better cutscene,
for real. Yeah, but the fact that
all that hard work,
the fact that you get to play as a Native American character during the American Revolutionary War. And in fact, when we started talking about it in our little MG podcast chat, and it got me to download it on my PC again. I haven't had a chance to open it yet, but it's been on my radar. But yeah, a lot of the more recent Assassin's Creed games, I feel like there's just way too much padding, and the games are just way too long, which, segueing into our topic of game length, where we talk about quality versus quantity. Now, Abdul, I know you were talking about how you have very little time in between all your other responsibilities. Gaming should not be a priority for anybody. If it is, they're probably young and are a little bit more carefree. If anything, I see gaming as just a form of escapism. It's a hobby. It's fun to do, but it's not something I should be doing while ignoring my other responsibilities.
Or you're in the 1% that gets paid for it.
Yeah, then
Then it's a
Um,
responsibility
watch
in
this
a way.
It's a
podcast. Let us get
responsibility.
paid for while playing video
Yeah.
games. Trying to quit our
Yeah.
jobs here. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, but I don't know if I want to turn playing video games into a job, because then it's
Yeah, I
just
feel
like
like
you're thinking, which sometimes
That
it does
comes with
feel
its
like with a
own,
lot of the
yeah.
yeah, but sometimes some of these games does feel like a job where it's like it's almost like a selling point where, oh, this game is over 100 hours long and you
Yeah.
have this endless checklist of things to do, where I'll admit there are some games that do it right, but there's just, I feel like a lot of padding in a lot of
I
these games,
disagree.
especially.
So I want to talk to you guys about this, right?
Mhm.
This has been a gaming trend that has gone pretty much I'd say like it's gone over the cliff for the past few years, where it seems like every single AAA game wants to be the game for you. They
Mhm.
want to pad it as much as possible.
They want to
Get
steal your time
Mhm.
from
they
other
want
games.
to they want to pad the game as much as possible. Get the numbers of like, oh, this game is going to take 100 hours to complete, 200 hours to complete. Like, there's so many things to do, and like a lot of these studios, they want their game to be the game that you're playing, right? A lot of these, everyone's putting on trying to put out live service games these days, where it's like, oh, you're going to play this game forever, or you know, there's things like Assassin's Creed, things like Starfield, where like, oh, this game is so massive, it's going to take so long, and it's like, this game is trash because it's so long. And it's just padded for no reason. And so we're getting into this thing where it's like it seems like AAA publishers are fighting for like the quantity of hours rather than the quality of the game, right? It's like, oh, this game, we engage like the player, and they're trying to do everything they can to keep you in the game with microtransactions, with battle passes, and just keep you trapped in that game, which is super toxic, right? And as you're saying, like this, gaming should be a hobby at best, or should, you know, a pastime at best. It's not something that you should obsess over or spend like majority of your times doing, because there are other things that as Muslims we should be prioritizing in our life all the time. So and growing up, there wasn't, I mean, there, like, MMOs have always been in that realm of like, okay, you're going to be spending a lot of time in this game. That was
They're
it.
basically like a second job.
Yeah, but aside of MMOs, most games that I played as a child, they had a definitive beginning and an end, and they didn't take months to finish or like weeks to finish. Like, some of the most memorable games have been games that weren't crazy long, but they were impactful. Even recently, games that I've really enjoyed are games that I've been able to finish.
I used to be able to, like, back when I had a PlayStation 2, I didn't have a memory card at first.
Oh yeah,
Right? And like I would rent a game from like
you got to beat it.
you know, Hollywood Video or whatever. So you have to
Blockbuster.
Blockbuster. So I had to beat the game in like either one sitting or like in that weekend where I had the PlayStation 2 on the whole time.
Yeah.
Right. So I had to be able to beat it in like a few days at the most.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like I would never beat a game.
And I feel like this,
And you would be able to. You would be able to like play a game for a weekend and get through, you know, either the whole story or like 50% of it. You know, 2 weekends, you're done.
Yeah. Like, you know, growing up, we talk about games that are super memorable to us, and we have finished those games, right? Like at A to Z, like we played Pokemon, we finished Pokemon, we played Metal Gear Solid, we finished Metal Gear Solid, and like, you know, Jack and Dexter, but all these games that you know were really memorable, and they had really good beginning, middle, and end. There were stories that weaved into the games, and I look at Dragon Age Veilguard. I'm gonna crap on it again. The game from the ground up is built to waste your time. It's built to stop the player from getting to the next step, to make it as difficult and cumbersome as possible, because they want to pad the hours of the game. If you get rid of all the trash in Dragon Age, it's like a 7-hour, 10-hour, like a 7-hour game at best, 10-hour game at best.
To speak a little bit on Laughing Man's behalf, I know he enjoys. Oh, he enjoys the going off into the weeds and reading all the texts and things like that. But I don't know how many players are going to be in that category where they enjoy going off into the weeds and like immersing to that level. And a lot of time it's not even immersion, it's just you know, a grind fest of, hey, find these feathers.
You know, a game that I enjoyed, actually going into the codex and reading about the lore of the game, which wasn't presented in the game itself, was Mass Effect, the first one. And, same studio, BioWare. I think there's a right way to do it where the game actually is long. There's a lot to do in the game. But there's a lot of quality in there. Another
Yeah,
great
like
example, I think, is Witcher
Baldur's
3.
Gate.
Well,
Is Witcher 3 is an amazing example.
If the story, I think when a game can be long and keep going is if the story is long, not just padded, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You were saying about Witcher?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So it's funny because The Witcher is actually, I feel like it's almost too big to a fault, where there's so many quests to do, so many contracts to take on. But when I'm playing through it, it is fun. The tough part is when it's a game like that where there's a lot of systems that you have to know and be familiar with how to actually play the game. If you play it for a while, step away from it and come back to it, it's going to be a little bit harder. I was worried about that with The Witcher because I inadvertently took a 2-month break from it because I knew that, okay, if I start playing it tonight or like at night at like 9 p.m., I'm going to keep playing until 1 a.m. and I'm going to be way too tired for the morning. So I'm not going to play tonight, or I got busy with something else. So I was worried. I kept thinking about the back of my head. It's like, oh man, I'm scared about going back to Witcher 3 because I'm afraid I might have forgotten some of it. But I think it was because I was mindful of that when I came back to the game, it was like riding a bike a little bit. But not everybody's going to be thinking that way about games. A good example of, a type of game where you could do that with, and it's not a game that's artificially padded with a lot of length. A game genre itself that's not padded with a lot of artificial length is fighting games. Like you play fighting games for a bit, especially you're playing it competitively, or you might just be playing it for fun. You step away from it, you come back. There's going to be some of that muscle memory there. I feel like fighting games, it's more of a genre specific thing.
I think that falls under any kind of like sports games, right? Where you can just jump
driving
in, jump
games.
out. Driving games, sports games, fighting games.
Yeah, like I got my racing simulator. I jump on that thing maybe like once every 2 months or so. But even then, it's fine because there's still some of that muscle memory there.
But you could put hours and hours and infinite hours into that game, right? Yeah. And there's no story to that game. Most of the time with those types of games, you're not playing for any story. So it's almost the opposite.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of. Let's actually think of examples. Abdul, since you love bringing up Dragon Age Veilguard because you love that game so much, there's that. What else? What other?
How would you guys feel about a game like
Starfield?
Okay,
was straight up like just bad.
My PC struggles to run it.
On the flip side of Starfield, what about something like Skyrim?
Skyrim again. I felt
was it balanced too long?
Okay. I feel like Skyrim is bloated. The only reason Skyrim gets the praise that it is because it won the lottery in being able to have the fantasy world where people could immerse themselves
and mod it out.
It was more open ended and like sandboxy, so people just kind of did whatever. But yeah, Skyrim also had it out.
Yeah, how many people that played Skyrim actually beat it? Like who got to the last question there?
There's some people like, oh yeah, I never encountered this quest, or like, oh, I didn't even know this was a part of Skyrim. Or there's so many people that haven't beat the game yet,
right?
Because it's so bad.
Yeah. And I mentioned some of the more recent Assassin's Creed games, live service games too, like Destiny, Division. I don't know how much Division. Destiny's terrible at it for sure. Yeah. To the point where it's almost like I put so much time into Destiny, and then now I go back to it. Some of the planets that were there before are not there anymore. Some of that content is just locked away now because it's not. Yeah, it's gone because it's an ever evolving world, I guess. And that kind of is frustrating.
And it makes you feel like like FOMO, like I missed out on this, or there's content that if people play Destiny now, there are content that they would never be able to get or understand or be able to do. Or even see because
they want you to be playing it forever and do every event, every community event, and be around for everything. Yeah.
The sad part about it is Destiny kind of did that well enough to where they became popular with it, and a lot of people were playing Destiny. And then other companies wanted to emulate that too, where everybody was like, we gotta get on that live service wagon. And there are games that became live service that definitely did not need to be. Example number one, Avengers absolutely did not need to be live service. Yeah. Then there's, the Suicide Squad game, which is
Suicide Squad. Yeah, I was watching an interview with so Skill Up did an interview with the previous CEO of Sony, and he brought this up, and he was like, like, where does he see live service games going? He's like, Sony itself has canned so many live service games. Actually, I think this
was recently there was
recently
they
canned two
1.
more. They canned 2 more live service games in their portfolio. So he just asked me, he's like, as a previous Sony, like, what do you see this? And I actually really liked his response. He said that, there's only, like, people have a finite amount of time that they can dedicate to games in general. And out in that time, there's a finite amount of time that people have, and there's a finite amount of time that people are willing to spend in live service games. And he's like, he feels that time is already captured. People that are playing live service games that like live service games, they're already playing those games that they like.
They've already picked their camp.
Yeah, right. They're not looking for new games, and you're not going to be able to convince them to move to new games. So he's like, if you're chasing the live service trend now, you're too late. You're gonna fail. And I agree, and I feel like it's so, long overdue.
Would you guys say Helldivers 2 is doomed to fail long term?
Yeah, 100%. I think Helldivers 2 is not going to be long term. I think
they're not going to capture.
I don't know if I'd call it doomed to fail.
Well, as in they're not going to keep a long term player base.
I think the novelty is already
large enough to kind of maintain the game and justify keeping the game going.
What's the numbers on it right now? Do you know?
I'm checking it out right now because from what I hear, it still has a pretty healthy player base. 40,000 players right now. Yeah, 47,561 for a 24-hour peak, and this is only counting Steam players.
This isn't majority was going to be on PlayStation.
Exactly. So I wouldn't say
those aren't bad numbers.
These are actually
for a Monday night. Yeah,
right. I know there was a time where they were at like 400,000 or 500,000.
But
players.
the peak is at the launch peak, the hype. That's always going to taper off.
But I don't see Helldivers. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't know if it's going to last like 5 years.
So believe it or not, Helldivers 1 is still going with its live service model.
All right.
Yeah, so I think it was on sale for like $7 or $8. I tried it out. I tried it as an actually bought it, tried it out on my Steam Deck, and it plays okay. I definitely prefer the gameplay style of Helldivers 2 a lot more. And there's still people playing. Like I jumped into a thing and there were like 2 guys that joined my squad and had to carry me, because that's the type of gamer that I am. But Helldivers 2, I don't see. I feel like it's a healthy way of trying to keep the game going, and I wouldn't even say there's a lot of padding in the game itself, because there isn't. The content that there is more of like what's going on right now. It's basically kind of like a war deployment simulator. There's a war going on right now. You got to go there. If you missed whatever previous conflict there is, don't worry, because there's more that's coming. In fact, they introduced a new faction that was in Helldivers 1 that you're going to be fighting against in Helldivers 2.
That's why I feel like it's a good comparison or like contrast or a game to kind of put against something like Destiny, right? Because it's also live service. It's also a shooting game, right? And it's kind of it's been around for a few years now, and I think the player base is very strong. So the question kind of remains: is Helldivers going to
what's
kind
a
of
game?
beat it out?
I know you guys did your 2024 game reflections already, but what's a game that's memorable to you from last year, and how long did it take you to beat that game? If you beat that game,
are we only talking about games we beat, or can we talk about games that we played?
Let's talk about games we played, and I'll ask if you beat the game or not.
Venba.
Venba? How long did it take you?
I think under 3 hours because it's just a visual novel.
Yeah. Okay.
Not many games bring me to tears, but that one did because of how it's a game about South Indian cooking, and I'm South Indian, so it got me to cry. It also got me very hungry. Definitely a game I'd recommend, and that's one thing I love about those types of indie visual novel type games. A lot of indie games too, where it's just like it's a game you get to experience. There's a beautiful story behind it. There's a beautiful experience there to be experienced, and that's it. It's a story you can tell someone else and tell them to like, hey, buy the game. Or I was even planning on. I haven't gotten around to it. It just reminded me. I was planning to gift that game to one of my nephews for him to try it out. So, yeah. So that's one for me. Nael, why don't you tell us something that you played from last year that you
That I
thought
had
was
a lot of
memorable?
fun playing as well.
Something you beat.
The Spider-Man game.
Okay, there you go.
I had a lot of fun. I beat it. Technically, I haven't finished the Harry Potter game, but I came close, so I'm gonna count that as well. Both of those did have a decent amount of bloat, but I just skipped those things now because I'm like, I just want to mainline the story, and I don't care. I don't have time for those side quests.
I feel like the bloat in both of those games is kind of reasonable.
Yeah, it wasn't as egregious as some modern games, but like if you compare it to like games of our youth, it's a lot.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Spider-Man is like what, 35 hours or something, maybe more.
Yeah, way more with all the extra stuff. Yeah, way more.
Let
Because
me pull up how
I
long
didn't finish all most of the extra stuff.
Let me pull up how long to be for Spider-Man. What's one for you, Abdul?
Dragon Age Veilguard. No, I'm just kidding.
Did you finish the story last year?
I haven't. So I still have the last act to go.
Okay.
So then I started traveling, so I haven't had a chance to catch it. But I will get around to beating it, unfortunately. Persona 5 Royal.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's talk about a long game.
That is actually a very long game.
But it's straightforward, right? Like you're not.
I enjoyed it. Yeah. Honestly, I would say for Royal, could do a little bit less grinding, but it's a good game. It keeps you engaged. Anyway, I want shorter games that I can play, and that won't take
especially now that
to finish.
Yeah, speaking for myself at least.
Here's a question.
Go ahead.
What would you guys say is a good time that balances like time of gaming and quality? What would you say is a sweet spot for hours in?
15 to 20 hours.
8 to 12.
Okay. I think I'm closer to like 30.
30?
Yeah. Well, I want to be in the world a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
No, especially just speaking for myself at least, the older I get and with the less time that I see myself having for my leisure activities, there's always going to be those forever games that I play that, they don't have an end and they're not designed to have an end, and that's okay. Like a racing game, you play those games competitively, sports, fighting games. They're all there. But then if there's a story that I want to experience, I'd like to get it quickly, because maybe not quickly, but I'd like to get through it before I get too bored with it. For example, I'm playing through Red Dead Redemption on my Steam Deck, and this is, I think, my 4th or 5th time playing through the game because I never got to beat it. Every time I play through it, it's a long game. There's a lot to do. There's a lot that I like to do in the game, but then I want a flavor of something else, and I step away from that game for a while. I come back to it. I don't remember what I did.
Right.
And it doesn't feel right continuing for the game from that point, so I have to start all over from the beginning, or I'm switching to a different system, which is what happened with the Steam Deck at least. So now I'm at a part in Mexico in the game, and I kind of don't like. I start up the game and I'm playing through it, and I'm like, I don't want to play through this. I don't feel like playing through this right now because I want to play something, because I've already experienced a lot of this already because I had to do that whole restarting thing. So I'm trying to focus more on games that I can experience once, and I got an experience out of it. Like that's one of the reasons Phoenix Wright was so appealing to me. for now. And of course, I switched over to Borderlands, which
Mhm.
is talk about bloating again. Yeah, but like I said, I like having some of those. For me, I consider Borderlands to be kind of like a forever game for me, where I just enjoy the gameplay loop.
Yeah,
I'm not there to
it's
beat the game. I just want to just
yeah.
keep going, and then when I get bored, I
Yeah,
step away.
it's like your Skyrim.
Exactly, basically, yeah. And which Skyrim, by the way, is a game that I did beat. I did get through the entire story
Nice.
myself. So, yeah. You know, one thing I'd like to hear is from our audience letting us know if there's any games that they've played through where they felt like it was too long and was just way too bloated. Would be really interested to hear some of their thoughts, or maybe even games where they felt like the bloat was the right amount, or where they felt like the length was the right amount, and even though it could be like 20-30 hours long, maybe even more, that length actually fit it. Because I think there's some games where that length can fit the game itself, especially when there's a world to explore, or maybe there's games of smaller bite sizes that they might have played that they might have enjoyed more, and we'd love to hear more about that.
You know what shouldn't be long and bloated? This
podcast,
podcast.
this episode, exactly. Which is why I was transitioning into talking to the audience to let us know in our comments of what they think of those games are, and also, you know what, let us know how we're doing as far as our podcast goes, because we haven't. I don't think we have had a chance to actually ask you guys to let us know how we're doing, or maybe I do that in the outro, because I have a script that I read through. Now I don't have that script written out, so I'm artificially bloating it on to make it look like there's quality. I'm just kidding. But no, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in, viewers, listeners on YouTube, and whatever your favorite podcast platform is. I do see some comments that people are leaving on, some of the YouTube videos. With all of us, working full time and having lots of responsibilities, we do consider the podcast to be a responsibility. If your comment is there, please be patient. We'll get to you, inshallah, soon. We're trying to figure out our social media strategy too. We also just created some social media accounts specifically for the podcast. About time, right? Well, for Instagram and Blue Sky. We're working on some others right now. Definitely check the link in the description for more information about that. Anything else you guys want to add before we close the episode? Give people the game that they beat with this episode.
No, I think we're good.
Yeah. Let's not pat on anymore. We've yapped enough as it is. But thank you guys again for tuning in. Thank you, Nael and Abdul, for joining me here. And with that being said, until next time, we'll see you guys later. Assalamu Alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.